So today I'll be talking about how to improve your ball retention as a footballer. Now, keeping the ball in the game of football is very essential. Obviously, if your team has the ball, the other team can't do anything. The other team can't hurt you. As the old saying goes, attack is the best form of defense. If you have the ball, the other team can't do anything. They can't score goals against you. Like, for example, look at what Barcelona did to Man United 2 times. First time in the Champions League final in 2009, and then in 2011 also. Go look at what Rio Ferdinand said about those 2 finals. He said that, the Man United team on both occasions, they were chasing shadows, especially in 2011. He said in 2011, Man United couldn't get near that Barca side. Barcelona were just passing the ball. Man United barely had a sniff. They did score that goal from Wayne Rooney, but overall he was saying that, they barely had a sniff. They barely could even, keep the ball for 5-10 seconds. It barely felt like they even had the ball for the whole game. It just felt like they were chasing the ball, just chasing shadows ultimately. And obviously that Man United team were probably more physical than the Barca team. Obviously, we all know the Barca team had short players of short stature, Messi, Iniesta, Xavi, Villa, Pedro, all these guys, you know what I'm saying? But look, they kept the ball, found their moments, and 3-1. And obviously, 3-1 looked generous. 3-1 on the scoreline looked generous. But if you actually watch the game, you would know that Barcelona absolutely popped Man United. They absolutely schooled them. So today I'm going to be talking about how to improve your ball retention. First as an individual, and then obviously how to help your team keep possession, because obviously it's all well and good you knowing how to keep the ball, knowing how to retain possession. So there's nothing more frustrating as a player than when you're playing in a game and your team is just giving away possession cheaply. You know them games where nobody can really get a hold of the ball, your team's struggling to make 2, 3, string even 5 passes together, and you're just out here chasing shadows, you're not retaining the ball well, and then the other team, they're just popping it, they're just absolutely popping it, and you feel like you can't get near them, you feel like you can't get close to them no matter what you do, no matter if you try press high, if you try sit back, you just can't get the ball off them. You're just giving away possession cheaply. And even when you do get the ball, guys are not keeping the ball well. Maybe a guy's trying to dribble when they should have passed, or a guy's trying to force a pass forward when he should have just sort of gone back, recycled, and then your team can play from there. But the first point I want to talk about in terms of improving your ball retention as an individual is very obvious. I've said this before time and time again, but it's checking your shoulders and it's scanning. Long story short, when you check your shoulders and you scan, you know where everyone is on the football pitch, you understand? You know where everyone is on the football pitch. The reason why I always bang on about this in my videos is because I see a lot of players not checking their shoulders. I feel like as footballers, you all know it's important to check your shoulders. Everybody knows that, you have to check your shoulders. Everybody knows this, but when it actually comes time to get onto the football pitch, I see a lot of players getting caught on the ball simply because they didn't check their shoulders. Like, for example, I'll be watching some players. They'll be in the middle of the park, they'll be screaming for the ball, yes, and they'll literally just be looking at the ball. They'll be screaming, yes, looking at the ball, not looking at what's around them. And then I'll be playing against them. Let's say I'm playing against a centre midfielder. He'll literally be screaming for the ball off somebody. He'll be going, yes, but he hasn't checked his shoulders whatsoever. So I've seen that, and I've gone, alright, cool, I can step in, I can intercept. So he's taken that touch, and he's turned straight into me. I've got the ball off him, and now we're on the attack, you understand? And he was calling for the ball for a good 5, 6, 7 seconds. 5, 6, 7 seconds where he's just going, yes. And he has not checked his shoulders once. And I've seen that, and I've just gone, yeah, he's going to turn straight into me. Bang, get the ball off him. And then we carry on, you understand? I see it all the time. People know that it's important, but I feel like people don't drill it in. And the thing is, in your training session, you have to drill it in, whether it's you're training with people or training by yourself. Even when you're training by yourself, when you're just warming up and you're passing the ball against the wall. Literally, when you're passing the ball against the wall, just get used to just going like this, just checking your shoulders. It might sound silly, it might feel stupid, but trust me, once you start doing that, because that's what I did. Once I started, even in just literally training by myself, just kick it, passing against the wall, 1 touch, 2 touch, whatever type of touches I'm taking, just getting my touches in before the actual training session, just passing it against the wall. Even when I'm just passing it between me and a teammate, I will always just pass, check my shoulders like this before the ball gets to me. Just check my surroundings, always be scanning, to the point where it just became second nature to me, you understand? And that led to me getting caught on the ball a lot less. Obviously, there's still times where I get caught on the ball. Obviously nobody's perfect, but you get caught on the ball a lot less, especially in positions where you're not really supposed to get caught on the ball. Because when people get caught on the ball where they're not checking their shoulders, it's in areas where you look at it and you're like, you shouldn't have been caught. been caught on the ball in that situation, you understand? That should have just been an easy touch and then play out, you understand? So scanning, checking your shoulders, you need to know where your opponents are, you need to know where your teammates are also, you understand? So maybe there's a time where you get the ball, you've checked your shoulders already, you see a player coming tight to you, but because you know where your teammate is, one of your teammates are, you can play that ball first time, whether it's a cross-field pass, whether it's just you bouncing it back to your centre-back, whatever it is you need to do, you need to just, like I said, just check your shoulders, and this will help you retain the ball much more often. You get caught on the ball way less. So yeah, that's the first point as a young player. Just always remember, check your shoulders. And one thing about checking your shoulders is that, yo, always make sure you're checking your left and right, you understand? Don't just check once, you understand? Because another thing I see a lot of players do is that they'll check one side of their body and they won't check the other side. Maybe there's certain players, I've seen certain players, they always check their right side but never their left. Other players who always check over their left shoulder but never their right, you understand? Just make sure, always keep that in your mind. Do it as pairs. So if you're going to check your right, make sure you check your left straight afterwards, you understand? Make sure you always do it in twos. Because yeah, even the best players in the world, they're always scanning. Like I remember I saw this thing where in the Champions League final this year, Inter Milan versus PSG, obviously the game PSG won 5-0. They said something about Vitinha, every single time before he got the ball, he checked his shoulders an average of, I think, 5.5 times, you understand? 5.5 times every single time he got the ball, and that was the average. So sometimes he was checking his shoulders maybe 7, 8, 9, even 10 times, you understand? That just shows the key importance of just checking your shoulders and just scanning. And obviously that's why a guy like Vitinha rarely gets caught on the ball. He knows where everyone is. It always looks like on the full pitch Vitinha has space, and that's because he's checked his surroundings. He's moved into the place on the pitch where there's space. He knows where his teammates are, and he just plays the ball and just keeps PSG ticking. Now the next thing I want to talk about to improve your ball retention as a footballer is to strengthen your legs, strengthen your glutes, and strengthen your core. Now I was watching this thing, I literally saw this thing recently about, there were guys, they were talking about Bryan Mbeumo going to Man United. They were basically just talking about what are his good things, what are his bad things, what type of qualities does he have. And obviously, I was thinking, yo, I think I saw it in a YouTube short, and the guy was talking about, yo, one good thing about Mbeumo is that he's got a big bum. I was thinking, yo, pause on that. But he was saying that, yo, Mbeumo's got a big bum. But then he actually went into explaining it, and I was thinking, yo, that actually kind of makes sense, you understand? Because Mbeumo has a big bum, pause again, he has the ability to, what's it called? If people try to come up behind him to try to steal the ball, he can protect the ball, you understand? He has strength in his legs, strength in his glutes to actually, retain the football. Another guy who did this very, very well was Eden Hazard. We all know that Eden Hazard, he was the master at this. We all know people clown Hazard for having a big bum and all of that, but it actually helps him on the football pitch, because if a guy tried to come near Hazard, he just sort of go into a squat position, protect the ball, and then accelerate off with the ball, you understand? I remember Yaya Toure talking about it to Declan Rice. He was speaking to Declan Rice about how Hazard, he was small, he had a big bum, and it was very hard to, get the ball off of Hazard, because he would literally just go into a squat position and just use his opponent as leverage, and then accelerate off to the point where his opponent couldn't even get the ball, you understand? I think Yaya Toure was saying that, yo, when he came to the Premier League, he was having issues, he was telling his coaches, yo, I don't have time on the ball, anytime I get the ball, guys are coming up to my back and I'm losing the ball, guys are literally up his arse, literally just there, and he felt like he didn't have enough time. And then one of his coaches was like, yo, we need to start, strengthening your legs, strengthening your glutes, strengthening your hamstrings, your quads, all of that, so when he gets the ball and he feels that somebody's coming, he gets into that squat position, and then he can hold off his opponent, you know what I'm saying? So as a young footballer, yo, I know it sounds mad. You're thinking to yourself, yo, why is this guy telling me to, increase the strength of my bum? But it's like, yo, it actually helps if you think about it, you understand? It actually helps as a footballer. So in my opinion, there's certain exercises you can do to, strengthen your legs, strengthen your glutes, even your core. Core is another one which is essential, because obviously core helps your stability, it helps your balance. If someone tries knocking you off the ball, you can still stay on your feet without, falling over and losing the ball, you know what I'm saying? So there's certain exercises. Obviously you got your compound lifts, like your squats, your lunges, which if you don't know what lunges are, they're just basically just weighted one-legged squats. Obviously you got things like, your RDLs, your one-legged RDLs, your trap bar deadlifts, your normal deadlifts. You got things like hip thrust. So these are exercises that you can use to actually strengthen your legs, strengthen your glutes, which will actually help you on the football pitch, you understand? Strengthen your core as well. If you want to strengthen your core, you got things like Russian twist, you got things like cable twist, and many more, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, there's a million of core exercises out there that you can do to, you know, strengthen your core, to help your stability. But yeah, that's the second point, where you need to have strength, especially in your lower areas, so you don't get pushed off the ball. So you can, you know, as soon as you get the ball, you check your shoulders, you see a man coming, you can sort of get into sort of a squat position, and then you can, you know, hold off your defender, and then, you know, pick your pass or drive with the ball forward, so you don't actually lose the ball. Obviously, like I said, guys like Mbeumo do this, guys like Eden Hazard do this, guys like Yaya Toure, they did it as well. This is why they were able to keep the ball well, accelerate past their players, and then obviously make plays for their team. And then the last thing I want to talk about in terms of ball retention, this is less individual and more team-based, you understand? So this will actually help your team keep possession, help you be a part of your team, which you man can keep possession of the football well, you can keep it moving, which will eventually lead to you creating chances and scoring goals. And the thing I want to talk about is literally just to keep the ball moving. Now, what do I actually mean by this? What I mean by this, sorry, is that, yo, you know them moments where maybe you have a centre back, he receives it from the goalkeeper and he's just standing on it. He's sort of standing on it. He keeps saying that he doesn't have options, but he's just sort of standing on the ball. He's not releasing it, he's not passing it. And the thing is, in all positions, when you do this, yeah, when you just stand on the ball, you're literally just hurting your own team. You can't just stand on the ball and say, yo, I've got no options. Even if there's a player who's 5 yards away from you, even if you just bounce it to him, just give him a little bounce, it just helps the team. It moves the opposition, you understand? It moves the opposition. Think about Barcelona. You know them times where, you know, Barcelona were in their prime, like I said before, they had guys like Messi, Xavi, Iniesta. Even when they were just sort of standing around next to each other, there were times where they would just, during the game, they'll just be in a little triangle, but they're constantly just moving the ball. You'll never see any of them just sort of standing on the ball. Even if nobody's pressing them, you always see them just bouncing it to each other, just bouncing it. Even if they're 5 yards apart, 7 yards apart, they just keep bouncing it to each other, just keep moving it. Why is this so important? Because they're moving the opposition, you understand? I always try to tell this to centre backs, because centre backs always, you know, a lot of centre backs that I play with, what they'll do, they'll get the ball from the keeper, and if there's no clear option to pass to, they'll just stand on it. They'll stand on it for way too long, and then what happens? They just end up playing it long and potentially losing the ball. I always say to them that, yo, even if I'm marked, for example, even if I've got a man on my back, just bounce it to me, so that when you bounce it to me, I can ultimately get out of that space, and then another midfielder can come in, we do our little rotations, and then eventually the space will open up, you understand? But if as a centre back you just sort of just stand on the ball waiting, saying that you've got no options, the spaces aren't gonna open up, you know what I'm saying? But if you keep bouncing it, if you bounce it to your centre mid and he gives it back to you, or if you bounce it to your left, I hope that point made sense. Just keep moving the ball, even if you don't have a man on, even if you're in the middle of the park and nobody's pressing you, the team's in a low block, keep moving it, you understand? Don't get bored of moving it. I'm pretty sure you've all heard that phrase when somebody goes, yo, don't get bored of moving it, don't get bored of moving it, just keep moving it. And there's a reason for that, because when you keep moving it about, you're moving the opposition, you understand? You're moving the opposition left to right, forwards, backwards, and then eventually when you do that, the spaces are gonna open up, you understand? But if you're just there, let's say the other team's in a low block, if you're just there, you know, just standing on the ball, the other team are just gonna look at you and they'd be like, yo, break us down, you understand? This especially helps for if you're playing against mid blocks, if you're playing against low blocks, you have to just keep moving it, because the spaces will open up, you understand? Whether you're a centre back, whether you're a centre mid coming up against a low block, even if you're a winger and you find yourself in space to the point where, you know, the fullback isn't really pressing you, don't just stand on the ball, you understand? If you're gonna make a move, take him on 1v1, then do it. Or if you're not gonna do that, play back, recycle, and then keep the ball moving, you understand? Just keep the ball ticking, keep the ball moving. You know them times on the football pitch where you feel like you have a bit too much time, you understand? You have a bit too much time, you lose concentration, maybe you take a loose touch, or maybe the ball gets stuck under your feet, and then now the other team have pressed you and you've lost the ball, you know what I'm saying? So just give it to someone who's 3 yards ahead of you, because this happens sometimes where if players don't see a forward pass or they don't see a clear forward option, they'll start holding on to the ball. They'll start looking, cool, where's my options? Where are my options? Somebody make a run. But it's one of them ones where it's like, if nobody's making a run, if there's no space to, you know, slide that ball through, yo, just play it to the guy who's 5 yards to the right of you or 5 yards to the left of you, and then we shift the opposition, and eventually those spaces will come up. You know what I'm saying? Eventually those spaces will show up. It allows the midfielders to do their rotations. You know, one player goes outwards, he goes away from the ball, another player comes in to receive the ball, he gets the ball, he's in space, and now you can play, you understand? Instead of you just holding onto the ball, just sitting there. So that's the video for today. That's how you improve your ball retention as a footballer. The 3 main points: always checking your shoulders and scanning, strengthening your legs, glutes and your core. And then finally, just always keeping the ball moving, never just standing on the ball, never just killing the ball dead, never being stagnant on the ball, just keeping it moving so spaces arise on the football pitch to the point where you can pass the ball into space, progress the ball, and then eventually help your team score a goal. But that's the video for today. Hope you enjoyed. I've been JT, and I'm out.